Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Carly Stevens. I'm the author of the 10 Academy series, and this is English Nerd. So if you've subscribed to my channel for a while, you know that I talk about all things English Nerd on this channel. That goes for literature, more academic writing, and then of course fiction writing as well. As NaNoWriMo is coming to a close this year, I wanted to give you some additional resources besides this channel, which you should of course subscribe to, that might help you in your writing journey beyond just this month. So here is the WIP list for today, helpful resources for your writing. The Thesaurus Series by Angela Ackerman and Becca Puglisi. So they have a bunch of these. I only own 2 of them because I felt like they were the most relevant to me. But they have the Emotion Thesaurus, the Emotional Wound Thesaurus, and the idea is that in here you can look up any emotion and then they'll say, okay, what does this manifest as in a physical sense and an internal sense? What are some of the effects of long-term experience of this emotion? And it's just an excellent resource for when you feel like you've described sadness in the same way a million times, or suspicion, or joy, or what have you. It can just shake you out of that kind of repetitiveness and expand the way that you describe emotions. Writing Excuses, the podcast. It has Brandon Sanderson and several other really good authors on this panel, and they do 15 to 20 minute episodes about everything under the sun to do with writing. A lot of them are fantasy, sci-fi focused, and so they cover a lot of those topics, but it's not exclusive to fantasy and sci-fi. This is one of my top recommendations. These, again, are short episodes that are so packed with helpfulness that it's hard to overstate how great this podcast is. So give it a listen. It's available on Apple Podcasts and a few other places. For some reason, they have yet to put it on Spotify, which is irksome, but pretty much everywhere else you shouldn't have a problem finding Writing Excuses, the podcast. My next recommendation is also a podcast. It's called Helping Writers Become Authors by K.M. Wyland. She is the narrator. Now, this is more of a craft-heavy kind of podcast. Her episodes are a little bit longer. I want to say 30-ish minutes to 40. They're not super long, but she tackles ideas like plot and theme with a level of depth that is really helpful if that's something that you struggle with and you want to focus on. It's less for kind of casual listening, but it's enormously helpful for technical craft side of things. Another podcast is on the way for these recommendations, and that is The Creative Penn. Joanna Penn is a huge name in self-publishing. She has tons of thrillers and nonfiction author-centered books out, and she talks to all kinds of writers and editors and publishers and people in, the entire world of writing, and has these incredibly interesting interviews. She's interested in futurist things like how AI is going to affect the stories. She looks at word choice and publishing options. I mean, she's all over the place. So if you have any interest in self-publishing at all, you have to listen to The Creative Penn. You have to. There's no choice. The last podcast on this list is The Self-Publishing Show with Mark Dawson and James Blatch. This is another staple for anybody who is at all interested in self-publishing, as I did, although it's not exclusively for people who self-publish despite the name of the show. It's another interview type show like The Creative Penn, and the interviews vary from kinds of publishing, indie versus traditional, to marketing, to craft. It's really all over the place, and so you can definitely find episodes that pertain to something that would help you. How do you keep motivation? All that kind of stuff. And so those are my top podcast recommendations. On YouTube, of course, you have my channel, which you must subscribe to if you are watching this. You don't have to, but I mean, why wouldn't you? English nerdy goodness. But another recommendation that I have for writers who are looking for YouTube options is ShaelinWrites. She is another one who goes pretty deep into craft. She writes all the time, all kinds of different genres and forms. She experiments, and it's, again, not one of those that is a like casual watching kind of situation, but much like helping writers become authors, she is an excellent resource for people who want to hone their craft and become better writers across the board. My next two recommendations are Instagram, so they're a little bit, I would say, fluffier. My first one is Sarah Jane Case. She has all kinds of posts about the Enneagram, which I find super helpful for not only sometimes understanding myself and my friends, but also my characters as well. And so if you're familiar with the Enneagram, it's kind of an alternative to Myers-Briggs as a way to understand what drives people and why certain personalities are the way they are. She lays things out really clearly, so you can usually browse all of the 9 Enneagram types in each of her posts, so definitely would recommend checking that out if you want some character inspiration. Okay, last one is another Instagram for writing prompts. NT Laser is the name of the guy, and he regularly posts these intriguing writing prompts. So if you're feeling like you have writer's block, you aren't quite sure what to write next, maybe after you finish the book that you're currently working on, then check that out and find some great prompt ideas. So those are a smattering of helpful resources. I hope that they're helpful for you. I'm convinced that at least a couple of them will be massively helpful for you if you go check them out. Yeah, that is it. There's only one more WIP list left, and that is going live next time. So until then, I'll see you soon. Have a good day.